Hey everyone, my name is Jimmy Alleman. Joining me in this presentation of compliance and operational security is Jimmy Bush. I'm going to cover compliance and the other Jimmy will cover operational security. So let's move forward. Compliance. I'm going to cover these 5 brief topics real quick. Hopefully you're as excited about compliance as I am. I love information security, so this follows right up my alley, if you will. So compliance, the meaning and why do we need it, who is responsible for it, types of compliance standards, and I'm just going to cover 3 brief ones there. What are the risks involved, and finally staying compliant. Definition of compliance, as the Macmillan Dictionary Online states, it's the practice of obeying a law, a rule, or a request. Now, for me, anytime I hear compliance, I always think of, security. Something that involves keeping information safe or a set of, as you see, standards or guidelines to follow. I don't know what it means to you as another IT student, but for me, that's kind of how I see a compliance. It's just a big umbrella term, and it covers a lot of stuff. Industry compliance. So as IT students, we're chasing an IT degree, be it a programmer or security professional. Hopefully the response I get back is uniformed, but are compliance standards necessary? And hopefully that answer should be an absolute yes. Compliance standards across the board, and I don't really care if you have a mom and pop gardening place. You should have some form of compliance standard. And really because, what happens if one of your, people slip and fall? You want them to follow, hey, we're going to climb the ladder on top of the roof this way, in order for them to be safe, to do it safely. And that's kind of how I feel it should mean to the average citizen. When I hear compliance, if I'm an average citizen, or I'm the average citizen, if you will, anytime I hear that a company is compliant, I know that they are following that set of guidelines, those set of rules, so that their information is safe. So who's responsible for staying compliant? Well, ultimately, each business takes sole ownership of their compliance standards. Now, as professionals in the IT world, this falls down to us. And it's not just IT world, but maybe the financial sector, or the health sector, or the gardening sector. Each professional, each employee, they are responsible for maintaining compliance 24/7. And it really has to be achieved. Otherwise, you really, as a business, risk losing your reputation. You risk losing, money, customer service. So there's a lot of, ownership. So, personal ownership in compliance standards. So here's some brief, a few compliance standards anyways. PCI, SOX, HIPAA, FedRAMP you see there, ISO 27001. There's tons of compliance standards, but truly, as a student, the most that I see are these 3 right here. There's some others, but I just chose these. HIPAA, PCI compliance, and Sarbanes-Oxley. Now, PCI compliant, I have that listed first. It basically refers to keeping your credit card information safe, so that you're not, think of Target, think of all these places. I know I lost credit card information to Mellow Mushroom, whatever the case may be. Staying PCI compliant in a business is obviously really important. And then of course you have SOX. Again, we're not referring to the White Sox, but the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, it basically, what it does is it holds the businesses to strict financial reporting, and basically this is to reduce fraud. So we're working way back, obviously, to 2002. So we, however Enron, think Enron and things like that. When those crashes and those big fraud scandalous, we took all your money, ha ha ha, things happened. This act was basically set forth so that again, we're holding businesses to strict standards, strict reporting. How are you handling your funds? All businesses, corporations really follow that. And then finally, HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Hopefully by now you know what that is. You see it everywhere if you go to the doctor's office. But that basically makes sure that your personal information doesn't end up in the hands of Joe Blow down the street. Your medical information, obviously with your medical you have your social security number and all that kind of stuff. But you get the idea. But these three, to me, they're out there the most. I see them the most. So again, risks. What are the risks involved for non-compliance conformity? So I ask that question because when you don't follow some of these standards, PCI, staying PCI compliant is one of them, you really do, as a business, risk fines, you risk penalties, but as a business too, you got to think, I risk my reputation as a business. Target took a hit, Sony took a hit, and they've got to build that trust in their customer base back up again. It asks the question here, who suffers? Well, obviously their customers suffer, but not only their customers, but their employees. Oh, you work for Target. Oh, and not necessarily just the employees, but also, like I said before, the business suffers. So, as a CEO, you have to make sure, straight from the top down, that your entire business stays compliant, no matter what the regulation may be. So, how do we maintain these compliance standards? Well, there's a plethora of ways to go about this. Reading what the compliance document means and says. Training. We've got to train our people to make sure that they don't fall out of these guidelines. Mortgage professionals, they can be out. Loan officers can be out anywhere and run into somebody who may want a loan or is asking a question about percentage this or percentage that. They may not be able to advise their customers the whole way through because they have to stay compliant. There's a set of guidelines that they are strictly held to, and that goes straight across the board for many companies. So I have a little quote here from Fujio Cho, the former Toyota president. We get brilliant results from average people managing brilliant processes, while our competitors get average or worse results from brilliant people managing broken promises. So I'll leave you with that. And
Hi, Jimmy Bush here. I'm here to talk to you about operational security. Operational security, or OPSEC, is a systematic process that is meant to assess the importance of information assets and determine the best ways to protect the information assets. Also, another way to put it is we're looking to protect our unclassified information, if we were in the government, from getting into the wrong hands that could be used against us. Things employers can do. Operational security policies should be in place in every work area, whether it be a commercial company or the government. Everyone should have operational security policies. Um, basically telling what the employee can do and cannot do. It also, you might set things such as a password policy, including the age of the password and complexity, adding numbers, upper, lowercase numbers, into there. Only allowed to use certain computers when viewing documents and everything. Another one that's popular is no thumb drives, CDs, external hard drives, except for company or government issues. This prevents any outside technologies being downloaded onto the computer, any viruses that may attach themselves into the thumb drives, the personal thumb drive, CDs, or external hardwares. That way, you're able to better control what is entered into your environment, so the employees cannot, uh, you know, configure, bring in any of their own programs. Another good thing to do is, shred all paperwork um, to make sure that nothing is getting in the wrong hands. Um, and training, you need to train all your employees. The following link shows a training exercise that is mostly for use with the government, but it really applies to just about any and everyone when you're wanting to protect yourself. Uh, this way, employees know what to look for and what they can do with their needs are for operations. Um, Employers, correct configuration is important. With a bad configuration, you wouldn't be able to get everything squared away. You would have less security. So employers want to maintain their configuration. Automation. This helps eliminate some of the steps where the employee does not have to configure their own stuff. There's automatically a program that automates the process, leading to less human error. You want to control the access to the computers or network devices, and also the authorization, making sure that no person that doesn't need full access to the computer does not have it, limited to need by need basis. Another thing is network monitoring, making sure you're following and all the configurations are set. Things employees can do, know and protect your passwords. You want to make sure you're not giving out passwords. Do not write them down. Use the proper equipment as set by your company or government. Comply to regulations. Shred. Um, you know, when you're complying to regulations, that's part of your compliance security, um, which was talked about previously. Shred all your documents. It's awfully hard to read when it's shredded to pieces, and that way it's further protecting you and your company. Tread lightly on social media. It's a good idea not to talk about certain specifics about your company or anything, because it adds up when people can find out who you are, what you do, and determine like what kind of company, what kind of systems you're running. And know your surroundings when you're looking at anything has to do with the company, because places like coffee shops or any public network is likely to be monitored, and they can pull information off of there. They can have readers where they know what you're sending, and key loggers so they know your passwords. So be careful when you're in public networks. Things that everyone can do, OPSEC should be in everybody's mind, the go through the process, identify critical information, is it important? Could it be important if it added up? Analyze the threat, what kind of threat it poses, what kind of vulnerability it has, assess the risks, the risk of if it gets out there and if it builds up, how will that add up? And then, apply countermeasures to protect yourself. All right, thank you. This was operational security.